Hi everybody, name's Mark from the Robezoe channel. To all my diehards, certainly appreciate you clicking on this video. Hopefully you enjoy it. To all the new ones to my video, if you're new to this video, certainly appreciate you. Hit subscribe if you want to. If you don't, and you don't like the content, fine. Good enough. Not everybody's built the same. It's just like a fragrance. We're all built differently. But if you are new and you have subscribed, I certainly appreciate it. Comment below, please. Even if it's just saying hi, I will reply back to your comment. So to my diehards, yeah, new background. I just felt like the channel needed a little bit of a facelift of some sort. I felt almost kind of the channel was getting too much cookie cutter-ish. So all the series are going to be the same, but I'm going to kind of tone down the introduction of explaining every single video, especially to my diehards. You must be bored of me explaining what taking a test drive and sampling samples are. So taking a test drive, I'm going to explain it here, very short and simple. It's all basically what happens on this channel is that taking a fragrance review, from unboxing to a fragrance review, is pretty much years in the making. It really, there's so much for me to review. As you can see behind me, this is like 1/3 of my collection. So I like to take my time, and taking a test drive kind of brings it in a little bit, because you know I could be unboxing this particular fragrance in 2019 and you're not going to see a review until 2014. Now taking a test drive is just me taking, 4 to 6 days, give or take, with one particular fragrance that I purchased recently, and delve into it a little bit. Don't call it a review. It's not a review. It's just, if it's winter and it's a summer fragrance, too bad. I'm testing it, seeing how it goes, but I like my full-fledged reviews, and I haven't done much of those, or any at all actually, since I've returned. It's just I'm trying to play catch up right here. To all my diehards, that's the explanation. But anyway, that's that. So taking a test drive, and this is going to be more of a conversation piece of each fragrance, taking a test drive, than instead of the cookie cutter-ish. I like to give out some stats, so I'm still going to do some stats, of the perfume and stuff, but it's more of a conversation piece. Let's sit down with the fragrance and talk about it. The table here in front of me is very busy for good reason. While having the day with, of course, the fragrance of today is L'Instant de Guerlain pour Homme Eau de Toilette version, not to be confused with the Hype Train Lidge, which is right beside it right here. This is the Eau de Toilette. This is the older brother of the young stud, we'll say. And I also have, of course, one of the L'Instants in the feminine aisle. So the test drive is on L'Instant de Guerlain pour Homme Eau de Toilette. This fragrance was purchased back in 2019, so I'm really backed up on my test drives. As you can tell, it's 2023 now, and I bought this in 2019, and you haven't heard a peep from me since then. So this is, of course, the original. This fragrance bottle has gone through a few transformations throughout its years. This bottle, of course, purchased by me in 2019, is now no longer in stores in this bottle presentation. It is in the new Ideal. You see L'Homme EDT here. This kind of line, and that's why I have Habit Rouge and Vetiver beside me here, is that they went, Guerlain doesn't really know what to do with their, let's say, classic men's line, I would say. Their cheaper men's line. They introduced this, and then they put everything in an Habit Rouge Listerine bottles, as I like to call them. So L'Instant de Guerlain went from like a bottle like this to a bottle like this in 2016. Vetiver got changed too. I got this old school Vetiver. So that's the journey of L'Instant de Guerlain. When L'Instant de Guerlain was first released, it went with minimal fanfare. I remember it was one of those just swept under the rug. Didn't really get much hype. Again, YouTube back then, no. But at the same time, it just didn't get, it did receive, of course, it was almost their transition, because they went from the Guerlain family nose to controversy, and it was like in the middle of, Wasser coming into play. and that controversy. So it was like right in the middle of that. So Guerlain did obviously a feminine line. You see one of them right here, and then a men's line. And there's multiple flankers. It's not just Lidge, that one. I think there's a, what's it called? Eau d'Arôme, I think. A fresher one. Was there a summer one with blue juice? I'm trying to remember. I'm sure a lot of you will let me know. Eau d'Arôme is one of them that's very rare, hard to find, but there is more flankers to this line, by the way, if you didn't know. So the Extreme, this one right here, Eau Extrême, EDP, is the one that I remember fondly because I was in YouTube back then. Nobody spoke about L'instant de Guerlain, any of them, until the Extreme version received its huge hype. And I remember the fragrance reviewer, which was Hero Hype back in the day, and I'm trying to remember if that was 2010 or 11, but I'm a great fragrance reviewer. But the funny thing is L'Instant de Guerlain Eau Extrême kind of reminds me of the reviewer that hyped it. I mean, it really is a little bit extreme. It was a little bold, brash, loud, and that's where Lidge comes in. But the Eau de Toilette is like the calmer version of it, the more refined version. So you can, you know, Hero with his really just weird ideas, but he was just a great fragrance reviewer. Find yourself a fragrance reviewer that was a little more calm and you know, a little more refined, would be your Eau de Toilette, if I could use that analogy in regards to fragrance reviewers in the sense. But let's talk about L'Instant de Guerlain. So as far as the bottles go, yeah, this is why these are out here, because Guerlain decided to go into this function for the Habit Rouge, the Vetiver, the L'Instant, Idéal. So they're basically their signature line for men, we'll say. But the Listerine bottles was that idea back in the day that they were going to change everything to these, and they did with the Vetiver and everything, and then they changed again. Now, before I get into the meat and potatoes, of course, I'd like to thank our sponsor of the day, FragranceX.com. You can get a bottle of Lidge on their website, L'Instant de Guerlain Eau de Toilette. And the other one in the newer bottles, I think, is the Ideal bottles. You can get those on their site. Please check out Fragrance X and support me by utilizing coupon code. It's my YouTube name, Robes08, onto their website, and you get 15% off of any purchase. You don't have to purchase this fragrance. So now let's delve into L'Instant de Guerlain pour Eau de Toilette. Now that it's less busy on my table here, I left the two here, the of course the Eau Extrême and the original that we're going to be talking about today. It is my scent of the day. I actually forgot to wear my scent of the day, but it is my scent of the day today. But let's delve into it. But and I wanted to get blotters here to just kind of, this is not a comparison video, but we can talk about, you know, the Eau Extrême version a little bit. Of course, much older bottle than this one. So let's go under the hood. Let's take a look at L'Instant de Guerlain pour Eau de Toilette. The release date for this particular fragrance was back in 2004. So before my YouTube channel was born. My bottle here is circa 2016. Obviously bought it back in 2019, and finally speaking about it. So it was a curious time, like I kind of said, in between the Guerlain family noses that were doing the fragrances for the brand, and then of course the generation of Thierry Wasser. So it was that middle ground where other noses came into play and started working on Guerlain fragrances, which is, I think, a huge honor for anybody to do these type of fragrances. The nose behind this, Béatrice Piquet, the late Béatrice Piquet, she passed away back in 2010 at the early age of 46, and it's a young age to go. But Béatrice definitely did a great job with this particular release. There is some complexity here, and there's some classic old school, but there is some new modern waves in this release too. So it was really going, you know, honoring the past, but at the same time really giving it a modern take. The major notes to my nose for this one, I felt like star anise is a big one in this release. The lemon is, there's multiple citruses, but the lemon itself is huge in here, and of course that chocolatey patchouli that is the base of the L'Instant de Guerlain family. So let's remind me of this intro. I'm going to spray again. My why not? You know, so I've put in a little dent. That's about, I would say, 3 days, 4 days of testing. It is a more complex scent than a lot of fragrances that I have been testing, but for a designer release, it really does have a good backbone. And the opening of L'Instant de Guerlain Eau de Toilette, the first thing that hits me, and a lot of fragrances do this, but this particular release has a really interesting mashup of lighter notes with darker notes, warmer notes with fresher ones. And it really feels that the way this scent translates on my skin, it seems at times that it just doesn't pair well. It almost feels like it's scratchy, it's not working out. This is not going to be a good fragrance, but you just feel like sniffing your arm again and again because it's so unique. It's actually, you come to enjoy the introduction of this scent. Actually, it's one of the drawbacks of the scent. Initially, it's almost like a shock to the system, but once you get to know this one and that one, but that one less than the Eau de Toilette, and again, it's not the first scent that, you know, has uplifting, you know, citruses up top and then obviously gradually goes to darker, denser notes. But it really seemed in this particular release that they're battling for that primary position for your nose. It's almost like the darker notes are like, no, get out of the way, citruses. It's our turn. We want to be like the younger brother. You know, we want to be darker, bolder. And it really feels like it's a battle. You know, there's a lot of fragrances that, you know, you got that lemon up top or that orange, whatever, that citrus. And it's just there. It's like a building block. Here, it's really felt like it's, you know, in French we call it mélange, mélanger un petit peu. They're really all over the place, and it feels like, wait your turn, right? The citruses need it's limelight, and it feels like it's not letting it, which is a very unique position in this release. Now, the first note that hits me is, are the citruses. I feel like there's lemon, grapefruit, and bergamot up top in this release, but and this really brightens the scent. But mostly the one citrus that really gravitates to my nose is the lemon. The lemon really shines here. It's a little different because the LME really helps this lemon sparkle up top, because LME does throw off a lemony scent profile. Really helps that lemon to be a little unique, and it's not just a plain lemon note. It really has a little bit of edge. Now, that's the big difference between this release and that release. The citruses gives me another piece of the puzzle here and halts that patchouli, that cacao. That is the main difference in these two. There's a lot of them, but that's the main one. Is the introduction it's almost like another, you know, if you look at, you know, let's say a little building of Legos, we're putting up another story of Legos here to give it another dimension, makes it a little more interesting, we'll say. So the citrus is really nice. The lemon is a huge factor in this one. Now, the star anise itself then starts slowly joining the party, giving its familiar licorice vibe. It also gives out a powdery aspect in this release, and it was during some of the testing, the powdery aspect, I was like, where's that coming from? And I totally forgot about the star anise, is that it does give a powdery aspect, and it will come a little later into the heart. I'm not saying that the powdery aspect is up front, and no, the licorice portion of it, the spiciness, is up front, but it's going to get powdery a little more into the heart of this release. The LME continues to push, but helps the spice kick in the opening. So now you got some citruses, you got some spices in the opening, and that's going to continue into the heart of this release. And the LME also gives off a piney accord, so it's going to give you a little bit of a woody aspect in the back end of this release. Then introduces the familiar chocolatey patchouli comes in with its cacao-like accord in the opening. So funny enough, like the color combination of the bottle, right, the brown cap and everything, it really, if you're looking at colors, and I always like to do that in some reviews, again, this is not a review, brown is the color of this release. I really, you know, there's some, obviously some yellow tendencies, but yellow goes well with the brown, but the star anise brown, the cacao brown, the patchouli is a green brown. It really evolves to that brown color more into the heart. So the opening of this one, citruses, alamy, star anise, patchouli, cacao go on for a little battle in the opening of this release. A nice little mishmash of notes that are not getting along. Maybe they do get along. The more I wear this release, I love it, but they're vying for your attention, which again is so unique. Once the citruses burn off, the freshness continues, and that is one thing that I was like, the freshness is continuing in this release because of a lavender note. The elemi also plays its part, but there is, of course, that lavender that keeps that freshness in there. So this thing doesn't get as dark as Big Boy over here. There's some jasmine in here that plays a little portion of the heart here to, of course, give it some more brightness. A small pinch of tea that I do smell in this release from time to time. Hard to find that tea note, but from some wearings it does come out a little bit more. Now more into the dry down of this release. The scent starts warming up a little bit, but not enough to call it the same dry down as darkness over here. The extreme version is definitely, you know, no holds bar. It goes dark right away and it stays dark. So it's not the same dry down as the extreme version. The elemi, the lavender brings the patchouli down a notch. The powdery aspect of the star anise is shown mostly in this mid, which with the cacao plays a nice powdered chocolate effect. The sandalwood starts coming through and gives the scent a nice balance with the pine accord of the elemi. The patchouli is still king here from the Au Extreme version, but more balanced with the other notes. I felt like the other one was kind of wild patchouli. This one's more of a tamed patchouli. Letting the cacao do its thing, but more smoothly. I like the powdered feel to the release, but the patchouli is still king here, but more balance. You get some muskiness. You actually get a little bit of a vanillic tendency here. That goes very, very well with the chocolatey tones. The cenotimes with the jasmine, the vanillic tones, and with the powdery aspects brings me to a, I don't want to say like an iris-like accord, but it has like a Play-Doh-like vibe in the heart to the deep dry down. Let's go with the brown color. So a brown Play-Doh to get this imagery right. You always have to get the imagery right with the cacao back in it. So it almost felt at that point, you know, and I think that's a play on with the probably the jasmine, the vanillic qualities, the powdery aspect. They really kind of give me that vibe. The scent smooths out quite a bit from the opening, and I mean quite a bit. It has its rough edges up top, but once you get into the heart, I feel this really smooths out and it gives you a really good ride towards the end of the fragrance, until the end of the fragrance actually. So the Eau de Toilette of L'Instant de Guerlain never got the love within our YouTube fragrance community as the younger brother here, L'Instant de Guerlain pour Homme EDT. But simply put, and I'm going to be a little cautious saying this, but simply put, this might be the better made fragrance in my opinion. With my, you know, just my limited time with it, I absolutely, and it took me some time to love this one, but I really think this is edgy and unique. But where it all started right here, very comforting. And it's something that you respect. If you love fragrances, you see the build of this release, and that's the odd to the nose behind it. The build is fabulous. Now let's get into Seasons, day, night versatility, and performance. Now, Seasons, I would have to say cool spring day. or night, doesn't really matter. Spring really sings to me, and we're at the cusp of spring right now where I am. Still snow on the ground, yes, poor me. But spring is coming, and I feel like this thing is way too dark for that. Again, you can still do it, but this kind of extends this version and the better version, and I'm saying that with utmost respect to this, the more versatile version. Now I can wear this. Cool spring, warmer fall day, no problem. Summer nights even, you can wear this. And again, you can wear this in the winter. It does have a little bit of push to it. Day or night, doesn't matter. Versatility's up there. Day or night doesn't even matter. So I'm going to go both. Versatility, very high. It does have some great versatility to it. Performance. For my bottle, and again, I got the Listerine bottle. I don't have the old school bottle or the Square Ideal bottles. My fragrance right here, and again, with limited testing, and again, it's still fairly cold outside for me. Longevity was 5 to 7 hours on any given wearing, so a little short of what but I'm still good. But a little short of what I would want from a fragrance. I like the 7 to 9, but 5 to 7 is a little short. And projection was average. It felt on some wearings, and I know this one gets a lot of bashing in regards to longevity and projection. This thing does go in and out. It's one of those fragrances that does play tricks on you. You feel like you're not wearing it, but or it's gone, and it's still there. So at the end of the day, my final thoughts before this goes into the vault for a full-fledged review, and no, this is not a review. The uniqueness of these fragrances, both of these, are what really attracted me to this scent profile, this line. It was a slow burn for Lidge. I'll tell you, you can go see my videos back in 2010-11 that when I first got this bottle, I didn't get it. But I haven't really encountered something quite like this. I can't really compare it to anything, honestly, the way it's built. As, you know, the younger brother here gets all the limelight, as the stronger, much darker brother. I feel like this one has its place in my fragrance wardrobe. Already spring is coming along around my way, and where I put this one away, I could safely say that I could keep spraying this one during the warmer months and be quite unique actually by wearing this release. The nose utilized a little bit of the Guerlain, as they say, a classical style, paired it with the style of the day, which was gourmands. Gourmands were huge back then, and kind of put it, you know, classical style and the hype of the day, I guess, and really meshed it together. Did very well with it. This is the less aggressive, much classier brother to the young brash Au Extrême, which pushes the envelope. I feel like this one, the one thing I enjoy in this one more than the Extrême is that I can get more out of it. There's more complexity, and I mean more out of it as a frag head, not more out of it as far as wearings. Yeah, that's that's pretty fairly easy to say, but I get more out of it. There's more complexity here. There's more avenues to discover actually with the eau de toilette, which is quite interesting because usually, well, not usually, but usually the flankers add something to the original composition. It felt like they stripped down and just went straight to the point with this one. So this one has much more to discover. So something, a little food for thought on the eau de toilette. So now I'm done with Saint de Guerlain eau de toilette. You may see it on a top 10 list, something like that. But other than that, this needs to go in the vault for a real testing. But for you out there watching this video, I certainly appreciate it, but you can hit us up in the comments below. Tell us what you think about this release. Do you own any of these Les Saint de Guerlain releases? Maybe in the female aisle, the male aisle. Maybe you own the really elusive Eau d'Arôme. I think that's the name of it. I might be wrong. Anyway, looking forward to reading your comments, and I'll do my best to reply to those. And as always, a great or poor fragrance will make a lasting impression. Choose your scent wisely. Thanks for watching, YouTube.